Hi there, Let's Talk Sports fans. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let's Talk Sports Takeover with the Sports Buffoons. I'm joined by two buffoons this week, and I welcome Tanner and JG. Thanks for joining me.
What's up,
Thanks for
guys?
having us on.
No problem at all. So, before we get started, it would be amiss of me not to promote Sports Buffoons, of course, a great partner here on Let's Talk Sports. Lots happening, and Tanner's just got a new setup, so now's the time to follow the channel if you haven't already. They have their own weekly Chiefs show. Of course, their show co-hosted with Tanner and Nick Bodkins of the Bodkins Show, and their weekly Wednesday show. So now's the time to buy stock on Sports Buffoons. Anything special planned this week, guys?
Yeah. So today, actually, a little bit after this show, about 11:30 Central, we'll be having our Chiefs pregame show at 11:15, 11:30 ish. So make sure you guys hit that bell because you'll be notified when we go live. And then I'm doing mock drafts every night, guys. It might be late, 10, 11, something in that range. I'm doing mock drafts every night till the big weekend. So if you want to get an idea, see who's there, see who's not, tune in, hit the bell. It'll notify you when I go live, and I'm also doing it on the Let's Talk Sports YouTube and Twitch channel as well. So check in. I mean, it's been crazy. I haven't seen the same draft once. So, and I think I've already determined who my kicker is, Jason. I don't know if I told you this, but out of the last 10 drafts of mocks, Matt Prater has been there the same round, same spot every time. It's a sign. Matt Prater's my guy.
Yeah, I personally would have gone with Morton Anderson or Gary Anderson from back in the day, but yeah, that's fine. Good luck with that, Tanner. I'm glad you got a great kicker.
Hey, I appreciate it. So yeah, Dan, there's obviously more to come with Let's Talk Sports as well. So you guys might get sick and tired of seeing me. So
I'm not sure about that. It's been fairly well received. The views are going up. That means it's doing well. We'll see. Make you our own fantasy expert. Ryan will be worried about you. You'll have your own page. So
coming
everyone,
for Ryan's
check
job.
out Tanner's great drafts on an almost nightly basis.
Yep, yep, no, definitely coming for Ryan's job. Roto Baller is coming. I'm gonna be signed up for him.
Would say. So I can't have you guys on without starting off with the Chiefs. I know you've made a little content recently, and this week there's been a lot of rumours around the running back position, more so than I would have predicted. I'm sure you've both got views on that.
Yeah, I'll start it off here. So lots of things could happen here these next two preseason games. So today and next week is something to watch because Rojo might be on his way out the door if he just keeps running with three. So I mean, if Isaiah comes out and he performs great, well, doesn't matter with which team. That could mean one of a couple things. It could be McKinnon, could be out the door. I think he's going to get cut either way, honestly. But it also means Ronald Jones might be a casualty as well, especially if the Chiefs are looking to keep six receivers. So there's a chance of that I heard as well. But yeah, running back group. I mean, I think Clyde for sure. I think you're going to get Isaiah to get some reps, and then after that, we'll have to see what happens because we got Derek Gore, Rojo, and then McKinnon. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would say that there's no chance in hell that Jerick McKinnon is going to get cut here. I think that if they cut one of those two guys between him and Ronald Jones, I think Ronald Jones is going to be the odd man out here. But I've always thought that it's kind of like the Bill Belichick way of thinking is that you can never have too many running backs. And so I want to have as many of those guys on our roster as possible. So, but it remains to be seen if we're going to be able to keep all those guys. I just hope Clyde Edwards-Helaire can actually stay healthy this year. That's my main thing, because if he doesn't, then, all of a sudden we're going to look back on right now. And, if they do indeed end up cutting some of these guys, we're going to look back on this right now and say, my gosh, we should have kept more running backs.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same, especially with some of the receiver issues. The more function running backs you can have, and let's be honest, McKinnon, injury history will play into it, along with Clive Edwards-Helaire. So if you can massage the roster numbers to be able to carry an extra one, that's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with it. I just think there's, you got to remember too, a lot of the main snap special team players that we had last year is gone. I think we have one guy out of the 7 that took over the 70 or 80% of snaps at special teams is gone. So you're going to be looking at probably a deep wide receiver ring to try to replace that, and also a defensive back. So that's going to cost a couple other position spots. So that's kind of what I've been hearing and seeing as well. Is it might be a 4-man backfield in the end again.
I agree. Is there one other situation you're watching for this preseason, both of you? What you're intrigued to see, maybe a positional battle or anything like that?
I got my eyes on MBS right now, because he's had some issues in training camp with all of his drops. And so I think a lot of people are expecting him to be the WR1 or the WR2 for the Chiefs this year. And, you can kind of take training camp, I guess, with a grain of salt. But if he doesn't clean up those drops here pretty soon, he's going to potentially move down the depth chart here a little bit. I personally think that, the middle of the season and by the end of the season, you're going to see Juju Smith-Schuster possibly as a WR1 for the Chiefs. And I think a solid WR2 here is going to be Sky Moore. And that's kind of a bold prediction, if you will. But I think that quite possibly those could be the 2 best wide receivers on the team right now. So that's kind of what I'm going to be watching is, how are those guys going to be shuffled on the depth chart as we move forward?
Yeah, that's a fair point, Jason. Mine's on the defensive side. It's really going to be the defensive backs, and depends on how much they want to carry there. So, like, I haven't heard names like Boodle or Johnson or anything like that in camp that could be, once again cut during the regular season. So, I'm hearing good things from other guys doing the cornerback spot, and I haven't heard much of safety stuff as well. So, for me, defensive backs is going to be something to really pay attention to, especially Rashad Fenton as he's coming back into play, and see where the other guys fit in the role. So, D-backs position for me.
For me, one position what I'm looking at again is on defense, and it's not one many people mention. It's that linebacker position. I've got a couple of interesting young pieces. I think they had to do something with the position, so I think it's going to be interesting what sort of production they get out of that to help the pass rush and the secondary.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and especially some of those guys too that are be backing up. They're going to be playing special teams, so we'll see exactly where that comes into play. Carter, I think Jermichael Carter, backup linebacker. He's here to replace basically. I can't remember his name, but he's here to pick up a lot of the 90% of special team snaps, and to also to help out in the depth of linebacking. Unlike the guy I can't remember right now, Dorian O'Daniel. He never really backed up linebacking as on the defense, very rarely. But he was a 90%, 95% guy of always special teams, and so that's a guy to kind of watch for in the linebacking route.
So moving on to the New York Jets, they've had a few injuries this week, most noticeably Mekhi Becton, which was always a topic. How will the injury stand up now? Less of a topic this off-season has been Zach Wilson's health, and after last night, that's a bit of an issue. But from all reports, and you never know until all the reports come back, but it's probably about as best case scenario as you can get. He'll miss some time, but probably not too much of the regular season. So, how do you two see this situation? I know some fans are already linking them to Jimmy G, but I personally think it'll just be Flacco, assuming these initial reports are correct.
Yeah, I think they're very hopeful that it's not a torn ACL. I know he's getting that MRI sometime today, so we kind of just have to wait and see how that MRI turns out. As far as Joe Flacco is concerned, I mean, I probably couldn't come up with a single Jets fan that wants to see that. I'm not a Jets fan, but I don't want to see that. And I don't think anybody else in the world wants to see that because Joe Flacco, newsflash, he's washed. Okay, 100% washed. And so if Zach Wilson's only going to miss, the first 3 or 4 games, that's fine. I can deal with Joe Flacco. But if this is a torn ACL or a situation where the Jets aren't going to have him for half of the season, I would say yes. You need to go out and get Jimmy Garoppolo because you're not going to have to give up, most likely, that much draft capital. You're going to have to go out and get him. So that's where I stand on that. I mean, if Zach Wilson is going to miss more than 7 or 8 games, or honestly, if he's going to miss more than 5 or 6 games, I am not going to depend on Joe Flacco. And I'm pretty sure the rest of the world is not going to want to see that anyways. So where do you stand on that, Tanner?
Yeah, if it's the worst case scenario, aka torn ACL, you got to go out and get a guy. Jimmy G's out there, of course. I know he's been linked up to trade rumors, but it depends how much you're gonna have to cost in the end. Now there are reports that has been on Let's Talk Sports that Joe Flacco has been outperforming Zach Wilson. I don't know. Maybe they stick with it for whatever reason, but I wouldn't trust that. I don't want Joe Flacco, man. If you do anything, if you don't go out and get a quarterback, let's just say, right? So let's just say we don't go out and get Jimmy G or anybody. Mike White better be your guy because I don't want to see Joe Flacco out there running. But you guys took care of the left tackle situation when Becton went down. Now it's time to take care of the quarterback situation. Unfortunately, the quarterback situation. I know Mike hopped on the Sports Buffoons Twitter and gave his condolences to Jude Jets last night. So, by the way, we're only 3 away from 1,000. Go follow me. Go follow us on Twitter. But yeah, it's an unfortunate scenario to see on week 1 of preseason. Hopefully, it's not ACL, but it's not looking good, guys.
I would just point out one other thing here is that if Zach Wilson does miss some significant time here, I mean, there are some positives to that because he's going to be able to start going out and looking for some more Cougars to give him some more action. So I know the Jets fans probably don't care about that, but from a personal standpoint, Zach Wilson might be a happy camper if he's going to miss some significant time here with those Cougars.
So what you're saying is Woody Johnson should be motivated to get Zach Wilson back on the field, or he might have marriage difficulties.
Yeah, absolutely. Woody Johnson. I'm glad you pointed out the Woody there.
I was going to say, no joke intended. And yeah, I think personally, the 4 game is the magic number. If it's 4 games or less, sadly, you may have to ride the Joe Flacco train. Anything more, then you may have to act. Don't know how they make that cap work because they had $8 million to spend before Dwayne Brown. So you may have to do some sort of gymnastics moving money into bonuses. But yeah, it'll be interesting. And before we get to NBA, I'm glad Tanner mentioned the throwers on Twitter for Sports Buffoons. 2 away now. So guys, if you're listening, We have, in fact, got 2 live viewers, so that's the magic number there. If you haven't done already, please go and drop Sports Buffoons a follow on Twitter. I did retweet them just before we went on there, so yeah, please do so.
Always
So,
appreciate it,
JJ,
man.
I know you had some thoughts on the Kevin Durant situation.
Well, absolutely, because who doesn't want to keep beating a dead horse and running this topic into the ground? So let's just continue to do that. So everybody wants to know where KD is going to land. There's been some talk recently about the Philadelphia 76ers. And obviously, the Boston Celtics have always been on the table in terms of the trade talks. So I'm just going to talk about those two teams right quick because those are the two teams. If there's the potential of KD landing in either one of those spots, we kind of need to compare those two scenarios because Boston, at least the last time I heard, they don't want to give up Marcus Smart. They want to give up Jaylen Brown and Derek White. So I think if they end up throwing Marcus Smart into the deal and giving up him and Jaylen Brown, I don't know that makes them a world championship team. It would certainly make them a contender, but I'm not going to say that they're going to win the championship at this point. Meanwhile, as far as Philadelphia is concerned, this is the most intriguing scenario for me because if you put KD on the Philadelphia 76ers, you can basically hand them that trophy right now. Now, there's other teams that would have something to say about that, but to me, if you put KD on the Sixers, they would be the favorite. They in Vegas right now, they would be the automatic favorite in odds. And when you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, they can give up Tobias Harris. Now, those contracts would match up. If you gave up Tobias Harris, who was making like $37 million, and if you give up Tyrese Maxey, now all of a sudden Brooklyn's got the all-star player. You know, they want all-star caliber players. Well, that's Tobias Harris. And I certainly believe that Tyrese Maxey is an up-and-coming all-star. I think when the whole thing started here, Brooklyn said that they only wanted one all-star caliber player. Well, now all of a sudden it's two. Well, I think you're getting that with Tyrese Maxey because he's definitely an ascending player. And just with those two guys, with Maxey, Tobias Harris, those contracts match up perfectly in exchange for Kevin Durant. And Philadelphia also has 4 first-round picks that they can offer. And when you look at that scenario, Daryl Morey, as we know, wherever that guy has been as a general manager, he wants to win now. So if you want to win now, then just get rid of those 4 first-round draft picks. Let's bring in Kevin Durant. He certainly wants to go play with James Harden again. And I think as far as KD and James Harden getting along, they got along just fine in OKC. But I think in Brooklyn, like Kyrie Irving was the breaking point. So it's not just James Harden that didn't want to play with that guy. Kevin Durant pretty much, I think, is getting burned out on him as well. Not as a friend. You know, those two guys are close friends. But as a player, as a basketball player, Kyrie Irving is a toxic guy in the locker room. And, you know, as far as Brooklyn is concerned, dude, you've got to blow it up sooner rather than later, because if you wait too long, the closer you get to that trade deadline, Kevin Durant's value goes down. We're already talking about his age 34 season. Okay, so Kevin Durant getting ready to turn 34 years old. He's already broken down a couple of times in his career. That stuff doesn't go away as you get older. So if you're Brooklyn, you're kind of playing with fire here if you're going to try to just hold on to him until the trade deadline, because that value is going to go down. I'm going to try to make a deal before the season starts. And if I can't do that, then I'm going to try to get a deal done certainly before Christmas Day. I do not want this to spill over into 2023 because I think that's going to spell disaster for the Nets. But my personal favorite scenario here would be Kevin Durant going to the Sixers, and at that point, go ahead and give him the trophy.
Jason, do you really believe the Sixers are a true destination? Like, would this be real? Is this the Sixers in desperation mode, essentially? With now they got Harden and Joel Embiid's healthy. Like, is this desperation mode to win a championship now?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it desperation, but you look at their two superstars in James Harden and Joel Embiid. Now, we certainly think that Joel Embiid has a few solid years left in him, but he's got a big injury history that is always concerning when you're talking about a big man. And so, let's just say you've got 4 quality years left with Joel Embiid. Well, you probably only have 2 quality years left with James Harden because he's no spring chicken either. And so we all know that Daryl Morey, he doesn't care about the future. He wants to win now. And so I wouldn't necessarily call it desperation, but it's certainly desperation in terms of guys like KD trying to get another championship at age 34. James Harden trying to get his first championship because he doesn't have any championships. And, that James Harden, he's going to probably retire in 3 to 4 years. And so it's more of a desperation scenario for the players, more so than it is for the franchise. But, Daryl Morey, obviously he's close with James Harden. They have a great relationship. And so why wouldn't he want to just kind of go all in here, try to get that championship? Because let's be honest, guys, I don't care if they have to give up Tyrese Maxey. Matisse Thybulle, I think, is the other guy that they would have to throw into the trade and those draft picks. Nobody is going to hate on the Sixers for trying to go all in here because that's what you have to do. And I'm not sure that what they have right now is enough. Now, certainly they're a contender. That current roster, they're going to be a contender, but why wouldn't you try to put them over the top by bringing in Kevin Durant? Because Tobias Harris, like we said, he's an all-star caliber player. But when you get into the playoffs and in an NBA finals situation, Tobias Harris doesn't really move the needle for me if you end up playing a team like the Golden State Warriors. So, yeah, by all means, you got to bring in KD. And I would love to see an NBA finals where Kevin Durant tries to go up against his old team, the Warriors, and try to beat them.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, I said it before. I said if we hit August and Durant Irving aren't moved, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm kind of sticking with that, but I find it hard to see teams like the Celtics and Sixers really still being in the hunt for it. But at the same time, they could be trying to make that next step. So lots to happen here, I think, left. And I know Durant made that comment to the owner, essentially, is like, trade me. Let's go. Let's get this done. So who knows where he ends up.
Yeah, that's the other thing, too. If I'm the general manager of the Celtics right now, I want to keep my core of guys together. And people always discount the value of continuity in the NBA and in all sports for that matter. And I think if I were the GM, I would try to run it back because you've already brought in Malcolm Brogdon, right? So you've already improved that roster. Well, why would you want to break up the rest of it? Because those guys are hungry and they're already familiar playing with that core group. And so as good as we think the Warriors are, and as much as we think that they're going to get better, that's true. But I think the Boston Celtics are a hungry team right now, and I personally would run it back. I would not make the trade. But having said that, if I'm the 76ers, I would absolutely make that trade at the drop of the hat.
So by coincidence, we've got a Philadelphia contributor in the comments. AK Eagles podcast. Says what's good, guys. So, if you're still watching, how would you feel about the 76ers making that move? And also, live update: Sports Buffoons is one follower away from that 1,000
One
mark
follower
on
away.
Twitter.
Go follow us on
So,
Twitter, guys.
just one to go. Should anyone want to drop them a follow? Would either of you be hesitant to deal Maxi? How do you feel that point guard position would play out? Would they have to make a secondary move, do you think?
I would imagine so. I mean, look at what the Celtics struggled with is that point guard position during the finals and the playoffs. Marcus Smart's not a true point guard. They went out and got Brogdon, who should help out with that. So I would say that they'd have to make some kind of other move. But what do you think, JG?
I'm not too worried about it. I mean, James Harden runs the point, okay? So if they make the trade, they bring in Kevin Durant. I don't care about the point guard position because James Harden has already proven that throughout the course of his career, he can run the show. And so maybe, sure, yeah, you probably want to go out and maybe try to find a backup point guard. But in terms of Tyrese Maxey, I think if the Sixers keep that roster intact, you're going to see Tyrese Maxey playing at the 2 anyway. I mean, Maxey is going to be transitioning to the 2 guard, and James Harden's going to be running the show. But the other thing I want to point out here is that the other reason why I would go all in for KD if I'm the Sixers is because you brought in PJ Tucker to be that defensive dog, which is basically he's the guy. When they played against Miami last year, PJ Tucker is the guy that disrupted everything. Now all of a sudden he's on the Sixers. And so this is not the same team. And so I wouldn't be too concerned about the point guard position as long as you've got James Harden there. Maybe try to bring in a lower value backup to run with the second unit. But I think with the Celtics, quite honestly, that's the reason why they lost the finals is because they didn't have that true point guard. And I was calling for it on our show. I don't know how many times I said it that they should have started Derek White because Derek White's a true point guard. He should have been the starter. And I think that the series might have played out a little bit differently versus what they did. And just having guys like, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart bring the ball down. They're not true point guards. And that's when they ran into the turnover problem. And so I don't think Philadelphia would have an issue with turnovers, especially with James Harden bringing the ball down.
Yeah, I agree. So that just about wraps up the episode, unless there's anything you want to promote for Monday's show, Tanner.
Nothing for Monday yet, but make sure you guys check us out later on this morning here. We're going to be doing a Chiefs pregame show on Sports Buffoons channel and also Let's Talk Sports, Selling the Kingdom, guys. So we'll be on here within probably an hour and a half or so. Actually, an hour. I think it's 10:30. So yeah, so within an hour. So keep an eye out, hit that bell, and hit that sub, guys.
And also, we're still doing Wednesdays on our divisional previews until the regular season starts. And as soon as that regular season kicks off, guys, we're going to do some more sports betting talk. So if you guys want to make some money, we're pretty good at that, and we will give you some quality advice leading into week 1 of the NFL season. If you guys want to do some sports betting.
Yep.
And all what remains is for me to thank both of you for joining me today.
Thanks for having us on again.
All right, guys, we out.
Thank you to everyone for joining us, and until next time, let's talk sport, fans. Thanks for watching.